Yeah, when I left school, I didn't have any qualifications. I was dyslexic, and they tend to drift into the arts. It's easier. So I wanted to be a photographer, and I'd worked in various studios, usually all catalogue stuff. Not that interesting, but I learned about photography for 3 years. I just did that constantly, till I knew every camera on the planet and knew how to work everything. And then I was desperate to work with Bailey, like everybody. If you in the '60s, if you wanted to be a photographer, you wanted to work with Bailey. If it was an actor, you wanted to be Michael Caine. If it was a rock star, Mick Jagger. You just everybody had their heroes. Bailey was my hero. I wrote to him and stuff like that. Never got any answers back. But then there was an opening at Vogue for an assistant. They had 6 assistants at Vogue, so I got that job. I was the youngest, 19. They didn't usually take anybody under 21, but I lied about my age, and they didn't do any checkups in those days. So I started working there and worked with lots of different photographers: Parkinson, Cecil Beaton. Even I think I did his last job, before he retired. And Helmut Newton, and Bailey, of course, was there. I never worked with Bailey because he was the top guy, and he had his own assistant, and you were assigned to him as a second assistant. And I kept a guy called Derek Gray. He was the one that gave out the jobs, and I was on to him every day. When am I going to work with Bailey? It went on for about nearly a year. He said, "No, you're too young. You've got to wait your turn and stuff." And then I found he was a Frank Sinatra big fan of Frank Sinatra. So I managed to get some tickets because I knew somebody at the thing. He couldn't get any tickets. So I got those tickets and gave them to him, and he said, "Anything I can do for you?" And of course I said, "Yeah, you can get me a job, let me work with Bailey." So when he came in next, I was on the list to work with him, and I found this gadget that you put on top of the tripod, and instead of changing the film for a photographer, that's what assistants do, you put the Rolleiflex on, you unscrew the one that is just shot, take it off, put another film on, screw it on. It takes about 30 seconds. And I found this gadget, you screw it on, it's got a little click, and you just slide the camera on, slick it, it takes 3 seconds. Nobody's seen this, I don't think. And I thought he'd be really impressed with this. I really thought I was going to win a few points here. But I was so nervous, I was so scared to work with him, because he was the god. First time. And so I said to his assistant, "Do you mind if I change the cameras?" And he said, "No, you carry on." So I put this thing on, slid the camera on, pull the thing up, and stepped back. Bailey came in, shot 12 frames. He stepped back, and I was so nervous. He was standing right next to me. I went in and I flicked the catch down so fast, so nervously, the camera slid off at 100 miles an hour onto the floor and smashed into pieces. And I looked at the floor, and everybody stopped in the studio. Everybody was looking around at this noise, and it was a hard floor, and it was in pieces. There's no way you could repair it. And I thought, I don't believe it. I got this far. My career's on the floor. And I looked at him, and he looked at me, and he said, "What's all that about?" I said, "I'm really sorry." I said, "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I had this gadget, this new gadget, and you just, you slide the camera on, you flick it off, slide it off." I said, "It's really great." He said, "It didn't work very well, did it?" So he said, "Tell Vogue, clear up that mess, and tell Vogue they owe me a camera." And I had to pick up all these bits, dustpan and brush, and take it down to Vogue, and I thought I was going to get the sack, and said, "Look, I've smashed Bailey's camera. It was an accident." And it was £173. I always remember that because they said they were going to take it out of my wages every week. But I thought that was better than getting the sack, so I was happy with that. So I went back up to the studio, and then I just made myself busy all day long. I just looked after, made coffee for everybody, and changed the camera sometimes because he saw it worked and everything. And so the day went okay, but I thought I'd blown it. I thought that was it. I probably wouldn't be asked again. And then 2 months later, he came in again, and I looked on the board, and my name was under his. So I said to this guy, Derek, I said, "Am I working with Bailey today?" He said, "Yeah." And I said, "But you know what happened last time?" He said, "Yeah, I know." He said, "I asked him who he wanted, and he said, I'll have that dickhead that broke my camera last week," or whatever. So he had a good sense of you, and he said, "Yeah, he worked right, and that gadget did work, and also he made himself useful and making people coffee and looking after everybody." So I liked his enthusiasm. So that was good. And then I always worked with him after that. It was really good.